I believe personal development is the key to all of that. Is like, it's not about teaching and the scholastic side of it. That exists and it's there, but it first and foremost is like, on a core level, are you a great man?
What's up, dads? This is the Rise and Dad podcast, a podcast in perspective on life as a dad from dads who are intentional about their fatherhood. I'm your host, Kevin Delro, and I have another amazing guest today that we could have so much learning, just such a wealth of knowledge. I'm so excited that he joined the show. He is the creator of the Fathers Guild, an online community of dads who believe personal development is the path to a successful family. He's more than a content creator. He's a coach, a mentor. I think he's got a lot of great perspective on fatherhood and family. Best of all, he is a father of 4 boys, 13, 10, 7, and 3. He's got his own little starting lineup for a basketball team. So I'm really excited to hear about it. But I'd love to welcome Pat to the podcast.
Yeah, so to be here. I'm fired up to come on. I'm excited to talk some fatherhood stuff.
Yes. When I first followed along with the Fathers Guild and your stuff, and I love inviting guests on that kind of have similar ideas around fatherhood and being your best self. And so I'm like, I got to have this guy on the show. So thank you for answering the DM and being here.
Yeah, of course, man. I take any opportunity I can to talk about it because I think what I think people don't really realize about podcasts and stuff is the ability to answer a question coherently when being asked by essentially a stranger. He kind of lets you know that you have a fully formed thought on something. So I just appreciate the opportunity to do so. And anytime someone asks, I'm like, yeah, dude, let's talk. And the more interesting the questions, the better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I found myself when I started this podcast, I found myself where I was like, man, meet with friends or people. And I'm like, all I do is talk about my daughter, or all I do is talk about how cool it is being a dad. And in those situations, nobody wants to hear me talk about my daughter, or they don't want to hear me brag about fatherhood. But I think I found my niche where I get to talk about fatherhood, and I'm not the lame guy in the room because we could both enjoy it. So,
Fair.
all right. Yeah. So, Pat, let's start at the top. What are you and your boys doing right now? You got 4 boys. What's taking up your guys' time?
Yeah. So we just ramped into summer, right? And my boys homeschool, so it's not like a dramatic difference from being at school to being at home. But what starts up in summer is something that they've been looking forward to for months, which is called Junior Guards. So we live in Santa Cruz, California, and Junior Guards is like a junior lifeguarding program where the kids go down on the beach from 9 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon every day. And they essentially train. They're doing beach sprints and ocean swimming and games and surf lifesaving and everything in between. And they absolutely love it. And they've been fired up, like I said, for months. And session 1 of that was this morning. So we are in full throttle junior guard session. All the boys came home fried and they were fired up.
That's awesome. That sounds fun. That's such so I have a little girl, and that seems like such a boy thing. Of just like getting out there, getting physical and all that.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I would say 50-50 girls and boys that are all out there doing it. And the whole intermixing nature of it's not school, right? You're not sitting down and in a classroom and doing stuff. So there's a social dynamic component, but there's a heavy physicality component, like you were saying. And it just gives a chance for everyone to intermingle in these surf life-saving, competitive, but not competitive, but yes, competitive, and then actually real danger environments. They're doing ocean swimming further than most adults I know can ocean swim. And they're like 6 years old. It's a
badass,
pretty cool environment for, I only have boys, but all kids to go through. And I think there's probably few better skills to have than the high capability of swimming.
And similar to dad, you have a background with CrossFit, don't you?
I do. Yeah. So I've been a CrossFit coach for 22 years, 20 years.
Man, been
Um,
around 22 years ago?
yeah, it started in 2001.
Oh,
And
okay.
then
Yeah.
I started in 2004 compete or training myself. And then in 2006, I became a coach. So I guess that's 20 years ago that I've been coaching.
Wow. Wow. And I see in your gym, you're still coaching CrossFit?
Yeah. Yeah. These days, I've uh, evolved to coaching coaches. So my main role is I'll travel for the company CrossFit and teach seminars for them. And so like now it's that second layer, right? So like coaching in
Yeah.
gym is about movement. And you say when someone comes into the class, they're learning how to move well. You're learning how to navigate them not hurting themselves, and you're pushing them, and like it's kind of like a balance between motivation and personal development on a physical scale.
Yeah.
And that's just coaching. But then what I do is I coach coaches now. So it's like on the next layer of it. So like somebody who coaches someone else, I go, okay, you could be more effective at doing this if you did X, Y, and Z. And so
Jeez.
it becomes super fun because what you end up doing is coaching movement's pretty black and white to some degree. It's like, hey, did they do it? And you go no or yes. And if they didn't, then why? And then you adjust. And it's very, very straightforward and easy for me after 20 years of doing it. But what's really fun is like you're now coaching people. So like when you coach coaches, you're commenting on how they navigate the world. So it'd be like me coming on and being like, hey, you as a podcast host, you do X, Y, and Z, but you could be better if you did X, Y, and F. Like, and
Yeah.
it's just a matter of like that next layer of figuring out how to deliver feedback in a way that's commenting on who they are, but then shapes how they impact the people that they work with. So I find it fascinating, and yeah, that's what I do these days more
That
than
is,
like
man.
coaching in a gym.
Yeah. I asked you when you jumped on, I was like, hey, man, should I describe you as a life coach? And you're like, I'm just a coach. And I see your perspective of coaching and coaching CrossFit. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Fathers Guild, which is a little bit like coaching fathers and,
Sure,
and parents. And I think there's just like such a wealth of knowledge to learn from coaching but also coaching your kids. Fatherhood is a lot of coaching your children and making sure that they're taking the right steps and taking the feedback.
totally,
Really excited to jump in on that.
sure,
And so the Fathers Guild,
yeah.
tell us about the Fathers Guild.
The Fathers Guild is honestly it's just like a forward-facing journal that I started. I have 4 boys. I love being a dad, and I see so many people struggling with being a father and struggling one way or another. And it's not that I'm not struggling, but it's like I didn't see many super great role models for what it meant to be a great father out there. And the commentary in the man space that I saw was very extreme. It was either extreme on one side of shoot guns, drive trucks, be a masculinity, work out, discipline, blah. Or it was on
Right.
the other side of things. And it was like men should be more like women and they should be really effeminate and they should always be like letting out all of their feelings, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I agree with stuff on both sides of this, but there's a huge middle ground. We don't need to live in the extremes. And I wanted to offer some advice as a guy who thought, it's not that I know what I'm doing, but I do know that what I'm doing is like kind of what you said at the beginning is very intentional. Like I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. I'm doing it. I'm looking at the results and I'm seeing like, okay, well, am I getting the outcomes that I want? And that's very similar to my coaching and my mentorship as I go, okay, I try something, I see if it works. And then if it works, I keep doing it. If it doesn't work, I go, I'm not tied to it. I'll do something different and see if it works. And I've done that same experience through fatherhood. And in doing so, I can take from both sides of these extremes, but then not hold on to the stuff that's there and performative. I can just be like, this
Yeah.
doesn't do anything. Like, why would I be this hard ass if it doesn't get the job done that I'm trying to
Right.
do, which is like raise a good human being? So, with that as a process, I had all these thoughts on fatherhood. And so I figured I'd start a forward facing kind of dialogue in the social space doing that. And I had taken a few years away from social media and because I didn't like it and I thought it did far more damage than it did good for the world. But then I realized that like I could either keep complaining about it or I could put out stuff that I believed in. I could either be like, oh, it all sucks and like just throw a little pity party for myself, or I could go, okay, well, I'm gonna put out something I believe in
Put
and
good
start it.
stuff out there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's going to overwhelm the bad, and it does contribute to the larger system, but people are going to be on here. And if I can stop them in their tracks for a second and have them like look a little harder at what they're doing, even if they don't change and do what I do, that's okay. As long as they examine it and they go, huh, I never thought about it that way. If I can cause men to stop for a second, realize the real power that they have as a father in such a good way to impact the rooms that they're in, then I've done my job. And so that's what the Father's Guild started as. And clearly there was an audience for it because I had a number of posts go viral and get bigger, and the account's grown to like 250,000 people following it, which is
Wow.
wild
Amazing.
to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. Like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. Still doesn't really bring me much revenue or anything, but I feel like this conversation was necessary, and I feel like I can keep thoughts on making fatherhood great out there and circulating in the space.
Yeah. Thank you for that share. And one of the things that you hit on was the word intentional. And it's one that we use on this podcast all the time. And truthfully, when we think of like when I was coming up with the Rise and Dad podcast, intentionality was the genesis behind Rise and Dad.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that was like we talk about like rise and grind. So you wake up and you just do this thing. And when you rise and dad, I think about it as this intentional thing where you have to wake up and choose to dad, right? Like you have to do it, right? Just because you are a dad doesn't mean you are doing the things of fatherhood that you being intentional with it. And there are times this comes up with my wife, and it's a good example of it where we'll have a fight or we'll have a argument or something, and something comes up and I'll be like, you've something you blah blah blah, and she'll be like, I married you, so clearly there's love there. And I'm like, yes, but just because we are married doesn't mean like it ends there, right? I have
Sure.
to wake up every day and choose to be a great husband and do the things that make me a great husband, right? Just
Mhm.
because we got married doesn't end it. And so
No.
that's the background behind Rise and Dad, right? So you rise and you dad because every day you have to choose to do intentional things, whether that's how you help get your daughter dressed up in the morning or how you respond to your wife when your kid hears you or whatever. And so that was part of that. And I love to hear you say it's like this intentionality because like
Yeah.
we talk about it so much here.
Totally. And when I heard you mention it earlier, I was like, heck yeah, because I think so many people don't realize that a lot of what they do is completely unintentional. It's like they've never stopped to examine basic things of why did I do that? Or why am I choosing to do this? And then you go,
Yeah.
if you're doing it, you should have a reason. And that goes with everything, even basic things like manners, for instance, right? You're like, oh, don't wear a hat at the dinner table. It's why not? It's, I don't know. But if you can answer
I
it
just
and
always
say,
thought that.
but if you can answer it and say, well, you wear a hat at the dinner table, I can't see your eyes and I want to connect with you. So your eyes need to be able to be seen. So as long as you wear the hat, pull it up so I can see your eyes. Then there's meaning behind it. There's intention. And if you've thought that out, then you have a much deeper understanding of what you're doing than because dad said so. And
Yeah.
I think if we owe it to ourselves as humans to examine what we're doing and be reflective and go, what do I want from this experience of fatherhood? What do I want my kids to be? Like, do I want them, am I raising good, obedient kids, or am I raising amazing adults who go out there and change the world? So, and if that's the case, what does that mean to raise them? Is this tasks, or is this who I am? Or is it like, and it's an endless number of variables, an endless number of things that can go down, but that's the fun. That's the fun of
Yeah.
it. Is like,
Yeah.
is being like,
They're like little experiments that we're just trying to figure it out.
the fascinating part for me is so much of modern parenting is like, what do I teach them, or what environment do I set them up in? And it's like, dude, 99% of it is who you are. So, and that's my whole philosophy is
Bingo.
like, yeah, it's like people are like, where do I put them and what school do I enroll them in? And it's like, no, who are you? Like, how do you interact
Man,
with the world?
amazing. Yes.
And that's why the whole Father's Guild stuff for me is like, I believe personal development is the key to all of that. Is like, it's not about teaching and the scholastic side of it. And that exists and it's there, but it first and foremost is like, on a core level, are you a great man? If you can say yes
Totally.
to that,
Yes.
and we all
Yes.
have our things we can work on, then
Yeah.
that gives you the foundation to do all the other little kind of like, and they went to
Yeah.
Waldorf.
And the
Yeah,
Fathers Guild and the Rise and Dad podcast are like so that we can all become better men, so that we
exactly.
are setting them up for success. So thank you for saying that. I've had dads and other parents that I've talked with, and like we're like deciding, okay, what school are we going to? Are we going to this private school or this public school? And in my head, I've always been a public school kid, and I
Sure.
have been for public schools. One, because I think that it's important to be around kids that are part of your community. So, right, that we're
Sure.
zoned for your community and you learn and grow around people that are in your community. But the other thing is that I believe that part of that growth and development of a student and a kid happens at home, like
Yeah.
90% of it. And so
Yeah.
when I think about it, and don't cite me for 90%, I just pulled that out of nowhere, but a big part of that, because I believe that with parents that are like vested in their educational growth, vested in making them great humans that are empathetic and confident in themselves, goes a long way in school and your learning. And
For
when I
sure.
look at it, I'm like, us as parents, me and my wife, we are betting on ourselves to stay involved and to be great and to lead by example so that we can set her up for success wherever she is,
Totally.
whether it's public school or private school. I like that you mentioned that because I have strong opinions on that. I'm like, it's really just how we are as parents and how involved we are. And school obviously helps a little bit of that, but it's such a big part.
But even the language you use there, like involved, it's, are you saying involved with her? Are you saying involved in the lives that you live and you're bringing her along? Because I see parents who are like,
Good point.
they're like, oh, I'm really involved in my kid's life. I make sure they go to this, and then I follow them to this, and then I make them to this. And I'm like,
Totally.
what are you
Yes.
doing? Like
Yes,
let them
yes.
just be a kid. Let them throw rocks in the creek. They don't need to be doing a bunch of stuff. Like, you
You're
need to
right.
be, what is the life that you're living? Are you centering everything you do around this kid? Or are you living a really good life and pulling them along with you? Are you going to work? Are you having real honest conversations with your wife? Are you doing personal development? Are you like,
Yes.
are you doing the things you want to do and they're along for the ride?
Speak,
Like,
preach.
yeah,
Yeah. Great distinction. Great
Yeah.
distinction. Because I didn't mean involvement by involving ourselves in her personal growth, but also showing our own personal growth. One of my biggest things with her is that I want to show her that I'm an individual and a husband that loves life. I
Yeah.
fucking love life, and
Yeah.
that I have a smile on my face, and that I love being alive, and I love what we're doing. And I do that because I'm like, I want her to have that excitement for what's next, excitement
Yeah.
for what we're planning, or this joy with life. You come across people in life and you're like, that person loves life. And you just have a great feeling. Being likable, I think, is such a big thing in life. And like when you love life, you become likable versus someone who's just down and always, oh my gosh, it's too hot in here, or why are we here? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, vested in it is very much me being my best self and being intentional about making sure she is herself also.
Yeah. And providing just a space for that to exist. It's cool. Yeah, I agree with you,
100%,
man.
100%.
I was just going to say, I think that there's a reality to life isn't always great, right? Like, it's
You
not
got
that you
it.
walk around all sunshine and roses. It's more like you deal with stuff in the open, you have honest conversation, you take responsibility for what you can, you're honest, you're
You
like,
got it.
there's just so much that you can do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's,
You got it. Yeah. Those are learning moments also. I have found
Yeah.
those as earlier this year, my father passed away.
I'm sorry, man.
And yeah, it was tough, and I was going through some tough times, and there was times where I felt like I had to switch gears, and I'm like, be happy in front of my daughter, right? You're spending time with your daughter, be happy. And I realized that she could grow by me showing her that I was actually sad.
Yeah.
And I started to be more open about it. And here's maybe a suggestion for other dads is I was just very open with my feelings. So I would come home from my day job and I'd be like, Dad had a really hard day, and Dad was just sad because
Yeah.
Lolo is her grandpa. Lolo's just sick, and I'm really sad. And,
Yeah.
and Pat, I tell you, when I started opening up about being sad, I gave my daughter the opportunity to show me empathy and
Yeah.
learn empathy, right? Rather than dad being this superhero that, oh my gosh, he's so strong and always this great guy. It was like, oh my gosh, dad needs me, right? And I'd
Yeah.
be like, I need a hug and dad needs me. And I think that it really gave her this opportunity to learn empathy and show empathy. And it was just like such a great learning moment for me in that time that I was going through that.
Yeah. And she gets so much from that, man. She gets so much to see that. I think it's an honesty, right? Because like, say you were to go through that and you were to stuff down all the emotion. It's like, yeah, when grandpa died, he didn't even bother pops. It
Yeah.
did. And I think
Yeah.
people take it too far in both directions where it's like all of a sudden people come home and trauma dump on their kids. And I'm like, no,
Mm.
you're an
Yeah.
adult. You don't,
Yeah.
you don't, you don't use them as your emotional support animal.
Mhm.
You're honest with them about what's going on in the world. And then you say, okay, but here's what I'm going to do to be better. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just an honesty with your being. And I think that that's a very hard place for a lot of us to be, is to be able to
For sure.
articulate what we're feeling and how we're feeling it and what you're going to do to solve it or what you're going to do to just be in it. And that's why I think the personal development side of it is more key to parenting than anything else. Because if
Mm.
you're not doing that, then you don't have even the language to put to the things that you're going through. So it's like, I mean, I'm getting super granular with it, but you don't.
Yeah.
It's just being honest. It's just trying to be honest with the world and take responsibility for what you can and move through it. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the whole, there's a lot of hardness to being a man, and there's a lot of hardness you need to have, and you need to have
Mm.
force, and you need to have strength, and you need to have all this, these classic masculinity things I think are very real. But
Totally.
but people just embody that so fully that they have no softness. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
part of us. We can
Yeah.
totally, I don't know. I
Sometimes, Pat, I feel like I'm being too soft. What do you think about someone who would, what, am I being too soft?
What would that mean to me? What would that mean to you? Talk to me about what would cause you
Yeah.
to.
I, I have this little girl that I'm just
Yeah.
absolutely in love with.
Mhm.
And I'm, it's hard being stern or keeping your word when you say, that's the last Bluey show or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I guess you could use pushover at times. And I understand that I'm not doing her any justice by rolling over and letting her do whatever she wants. But
Right.
it's times like that that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm too soft.
Yeah. I'm speaking as a guy with 4 boys, right? I know there's a different place in your heart that opens up for a girl. I've had many people tell me those things. I do see that as a very common pattern, this ability to people push through that. And I don't think there's any black and white rules with regards to
Mm.
this. And I think there's time and
Mhm.
place to be like, you know what? And another episode of Bluey is okay. But I think that there does need to be quite clear boundaries in relationships where if you say no, that needs to mean no. It's really important that it means
Totally.
no. So if you don't want it to be no, just don't say no. Just say, we'll see, maybe. And then you have that. But then if you say no, I think it's really important to hold those boundaries. And with
Totally.
small exceptions of being like, uh, because of this and this, you know what? I think let's do it. And I don't think
Mm.
there's any black and white rules, but that I do think that being a pushover to your kids can go very wrong, where kids end up running the show and then they end up actually being more dysregulated because of it, because they don't
Mhm.
have any boundaries with their parents. And it ends up being a harder thing for them down the road. They just think they can kind of walk through and get what they want. They run
Right.
into that issue later. Because I think some people conflate boundaries with withholding love. And it's, no, you can love the hell out of them, but also have boundaries. And it doesn't even need to be emotional and contentious. It's, hey, if we don't clean this up, we can't watch Bluey later. And it's, that's not a punishment. It's just like, that's just how the
That's
world
how it
works. Like
is. Yeah.
and then when you don't clean it up, sorry. And I'm not mad about it. We can't do this. And they'll throw a fit and they'll do the thing, but then they'll learn. It's like, I don't know. I think that's up for you to sort out for yourself. And I'm sure there's times where you can push a little harder and times where you can pull back and it's appropriate. But
Yeah.
I would, if I was in a similar situation, I would examine it and being like, what do I want her relationship with men to be like in the future? And
Mhm.
like,
Hey, oh man, now you're just deep. No, it's deep. Yeah, that question that you just said is just such a big piece of what I think about within how I live my daily life.
Mhm.
Because I believe that our daughters, I know I keep talking about daughters and you have son. I'm sorry
It's
about
all
that,
good.
but
It's all
it's
good.
just personal for me is that I feel that our daughters look for these type of attributes in men for in their relationships, right? The way that she connects with dad is the way that she's looking for relationships with men in the future. And
Sure.
so I hold myself to that very strongly and I keep it just so tight in my heart, knowing that everything that I do has to be intentional so that I have those attributes that a man would have in her life later, right? Like if I'm
Totally.
a shitty dad, then that's how she thinks men are. And then she's okay with shitty men, right?
Totally.
Because I'm like, every day I'm thinking about being that better man for her.
For sure. And I think that one of the ways that I really love to examine this is you take it back to something as silly as the love languages, right?
Yeah.
And you've got all the different love languages, right? And people use these, they use them incorrectly, if you ask me, but, and they, or they use them as a weapon. They'll be like, this is my love
Right.
language. If you don't show me this, then you don't love me. And it's like, what? No,
Yes. Oh,
there's,
yes.
there's actually, there's a love languages for kids book, which is really interesting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in it, they have a throwaway line where he says, maturity in the love languages is being able to feel loved by all of the different languages. So
Wow.
when you mature, you should be able to, whatever style of love someone's giving you should be able to receive it just as deeply as your normal language. And I think one thing that we can do as parents to give our kids a leg up in the world is to love them via all of the languages. So oftentimes we'll do the things that we love is like, oh, I'll always give them words of affirmation, or I'll make sure I give them physical touch, or I'll make the things that we like. But if we go outside the box and think, okay, well, I'm also going to do quality time. I'm also going to do acts of service. I'm also going to, and you do all the things. So that way they know that they're loved through all the different ways. Then later in life, they'll be able to receive it through all the different ways. And they won't be all stunted in their development because all dad did was buy me toys. And now you need to buy me toys. And it's, oh,
Yeah.
so it becomes a big weight on our shoulders.
Wow.
But I think it's an easy one to examine and be like, do I express love in all the ways? I got to get better at physical touch. I'm going to make sure I give them a hug every day. It's, it's an
That
interesting
is
one.
such a big learning, Pat, and a homework that I'm gonna take. Like that, I love that. And is there a way that you try to implement this in your own life? Are you just making sure, like, did I give words of affirmation today? You know, did I hug? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I know what I do easily is words of affirmation. So words of affirmation are very easy for me. Quality time is pretty easy for me. The hard thing that's for me is the physical touch. I don't remember to do it to my boys.
Mhm.
So what I've challenged myself to do through my Father's Guild stuff and the hero's journey is I'll do series of challenges with myself where I just challenge myself to do different things that are not, they don't fit inside the norm for what I do.
Yeah.
And one of those tasks that I would do would be like every day I give every member of the family a 10-second hug and tell them I love you. And 10 seconds is actually a
Awesome.
really long time.
That's
So
long.
you're like holding them and you're like, okay. Like, and you'll
Yeah.
do that for a full month and it becomes, what's fascinating is different kids will respond differently. So some will like try
Yeah.
to pull away sooner and some will just, they won't pull away until you let go. And you didn't even
Yeah.
realize that they were like
Yeah.
wanting more of that. And you do it to your wife and you like, so that was, that's generally the way I work. If I know that I want to do something in my life, what I'll do is I'll create a challenge for myself to do it more intentionally for a period of time and then find strategies for doing it more often, naturally and organically. And that's the emphasis of everything I do at the Father's Guild is I want to be better. So I'm going to find what I want to be better in. I'm going to challenge myself to be better in that. And I'm going to try and then incorporate that in my life if it makes sense.
What a great frame. That's such a great framework for like how we need to approach fatherhood. And I think so cute. That's 10-second hug. It
Yeah.
just warms me right now. I think we all need that. One of the things that you mentioned, and I know that you talk about this personal touch as one thing that you had to get better at. I've had so many dads, and I'm sure you've talked to dads here, where they say, my dad didn't tell me he loved me, or my dad didn't really hug me. And you talk about this one that you need to get better is personal touch. Why do you think that a lot of dads have struggled with this, with boys particularly?
Um, I think that there's modeling is a big part of it, right? So what we get modeled, we tend to carry on. So there aren't a lot of grown men who are very physical with their young sons. I think
Mhm.
culturally, it wasn't always acceptable. I think it's good to some degree that we don't let old men fondle young boys. I think that's a good thing for the most part. But I think expressing love has been, for a while, it was seen as effeminate to do something like that. So I think that there was a
Yeah.
cultural nature that was centered around like when you are physical in touch, it's gay or it's effeminate, and it's like, what are you talking about? They're your
Yeah.
kid. It's super. Even your good friends, men should be able to hug and be like, dude,
Totally.
yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
fucking love you, and like
Love you.
and yeah, there's nothing. But I think it's very cultural, and as a species, we're uniquely cultural in the sense that what we deem to be okay in a culture, we will do, regardless of whether or not it's good for us. So I think that would be my guess is there's a lot of extra hard generations that have progressively tried to figure out ways of passing on love, and physical touch was one of the last kind of beacons of this hardcore masculinity that kind of needed to die. I think it's a very beneficial one. There's all kinds of great things that happen from it. And I'm a big fan of giving lots of love to my boys, and
That's
of
great. You're
course a
breaking the
very
chain. Then they're gonna be dads that are giving hugs to their boys, and
exactly,
here we are, new
exactly,
generation. I
exactly.
love
And
that. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's probably my favorite part about raising kids is just an opportunity for more good people to be in the world and make positive change.
Yeah. And you got 4 tries too. I just
I
like
know, right?
one try, I can't fuck this one up.
Yeah, so you have
Uh,
one, is that it?
yeah, just a one. She's almost 6, and so
Okay.
maybe that's why I'm like, I gotta get this one right. I gotta be intentional. I gotta be good.
You don't wanna focus on it too hard. Like, says
True,
things, the
true.
tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers deal?
Oh, man. Yeah, too much. So that's the thing. Even with parenting, fatherhood, you can overthink anything,
Of
right?
course.
Here, I'm just like, oh, I need to be dialed in. I have to be intentional with it. And then you threw in a very reasonable thought. It was like, well, you can't do that too much, right? So
Yeah,
everything is just a balance of even the masculinity and the feminine. It's like, it's a balance. And so
sure.
I think that as fathers and in fatherhood, we have to be okay with that balance and find the balance. We can't go too strong one way. And maybe I'm too strong, being too intentional or whatever it is, but
Well,
still trying to find it. I don't know the answers, Pat.
I I've had people comment on my stuff because I think really deeply a lot. I'm very reflective, and I it's been one of my favorite things to do is just think about things that happen.
Yeah.
I think what I do bothers some people is I don't carry my thoughts. If I think about something thoroughly, and I'll just let it go. Even if I have
Yeah.
a strong opinion about it, I'm not walking around holding this thought. I just let it go. So I'm like, and so so when I bring something to the table, it's like I've thought about it for a while, and it's like I'm pondering it, but I don't think about it much beyond that. And I think the other thing that I do is if I have a thought that I think is particularly meaningful, what I will do is I'll take action on it. And I think that's the difference between overthinking and just thinking a lot and being really
Mm.
reflective is there's
Yeah.
action associated with it. I think true overthinking where it's a negative thing is you just sit and think so hard that you don't act. And it's,
Yeah.
well, that that's not good. It's because you're frozen in place. So I would say overthinking is only a detrimental thing if there's no action associated with it. And I would even just say it's not overthinking if you're taking action. But if you're just thinking and you're not doing, you need to get off your ass and do stuff. So
Yeah.
that's going to be far more important and
There
impactful
you
to
go.
your life.
I love that, Pat. And you know what? I am taking action because I'm on this podcast with a coach
See?
like you.
See?
I I always see this podcast as this opportunity for me. You mentioned making money off of the Father's Guild or me, or I've mentioned it in the past. Like, oh, people be like, oh, you want to build this podcast brand and make some money and quit your job. And no, that wasn't always the goal or ever the goal. For me, it always just started about finding ways to get better. And like in my daily life, I'm in the creative field, so I do marketing and creative content. And it was marrying this idea of something that I love talking about and I need to
Yeah.
learn about with what my day job is and what I'm like good at.
Yeah.
So it just kind of worked out.
It makes more sense why your
Yeah.
stuff all looks so good. I was always like,
Oh,
what?
yeah,
Why does
thanks.
this all look so clean? And the
Oh,
brand's all, I
yeah.
was like, I know a lot of people who do this who don't pull it off quite the same way you do. I was like, okay,
Hey,
all right,
thank you.
good
I
job.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Hey, so you also mentioned another thing. You mentioned social media. Let's talk
Sure.
about social media
About it.
because there's you. I found you on social media. You have many followers on social media,
Yeah.
but then you told me you don't like social media, and I can get an idea why. But why
Sure.
don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the reality is that social media is where people go to interact for better or worse these days, right? They're spending a lot of their time on devices consuming. And if you want to be seen or if you want to have a voice or be a part of the conversation, there is a necessary evil of being on these platforms. And I say it's evil because I think like I said, the majority of things on these platforms is more detrimental to people's well-being than it is aspirational or educational even. I think more life is wasted on these platforms than more things are gained from them. And that's my personal opinion. But there is, like I said, a necessity if you want to get a message out or put things forward to being in these spaces. And something that I had to overcome was like, when I started social media, like Instagram, like way back in the day, I had a lot of very famous friends. They were very famous in the CrossFit and fitness space, in the
Mm,
early days of Instagram, like 200, 300,000 followers, things like that, like way back. And you're like,
yeah.
whoa. And just because they were popular. And I was never that. I was, because I would just kind of like post things here and there. And I never picked a lane and was like, watch me work out. Like I didn't want to do that. It was so dumb. And I was not one dimensional. And so my Instagram was all over the place. Like the account grew to like 36,000 followers and just through like association with my friends.
Yeah.
But like what I found fascinating is like, if I wanted, like, say I'd have like some really cool parenting thought, or I'd have this
Mhm.
like the thing that I thought was like genuinely I wanted to share. I'd put all this time and effort into making a video and I'd put it out there and it like no one
Yeah.
would see it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I
They're
hate
like,
this.
how is that going to impact my pecs? It's
Yeah,
not.
exactly. And I'm like, and no one cared. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was just, and I hated that because it was like, but I think this is important and I'm putting it out there.
Mhm.
And it was not
Mhm.
like I want to be seen and it's not like I want to be famous. It's more like I want
Totally.
this conversation to be had. And if I'm being honest, I would like to be seen in those times. And it was like a comparison game I was playing. Like this guy posts him like doing a random lift and he gets 500,000 people. I give this a meaningful thought and I get like five likes. It's like my mom.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was a period of time where I was dealing with that and I was like, you know what? I'm going to step away. And I stepped away. But then I started like paying attention to what social media was. And I examined it a lot closer because I'm a thinker. And I was like, there's a game associated with this. And
Mhm.
game is like, is if you're not playing it, then don't expect your stuff to get seen. It's
Sure.
like
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
have the most
That's the
meaningful.
unfortunate part. You got to play
Yeah,
the rules.
you got to play the rules, but you can't complain if you're not playing the rules and stuff's not happening. It's like, why would you
Yeah.
complain? It'd be like stepping on the football field with a baseball bat and being like, well, I just can't seem to win this football game. And you're like, but you're playing the wrong game. What are you expecting?
Yeah.
With that in mind, when I came back to start the Father's Guild, I was like, fine, I'll play the game. I'll play the game of I'm going to edit in such a way where I will play with people's attention span, or I will have a
Enticing.
hook, or
Yeah.
I was like, or I'll film in such a way. And I started playing the game, but within the confines of the message that I wanted to put out there. And
Yeah.
that's what worked. And it's okay. So it was just a matter of playing the game. And it was a good life lesson of you can not like stuff. You can not like the fact that people will treat you differently if you're overweight. But
Hmm.
the reality is there's a game to be played here. And
Hmm.
if you don't want to play the game, we can be mad at the game, but we also have to recognize that the game exists there. And if we're not
Yeah.
playing it, we can't be mad at the fact that we're not winning. And
Yeah.
it's not that I want to
Yeah.
win. It's just there's an objective step back. And some people will go so far as to say, I want to change the system. And it's great. Change the system. That's such a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But there are other steps in the way where I can be like, I have this message. I want to get it across. I'm going on this platform. Fine. I'll play the game. And
Yeah.
and and so my current thoughts on social media are, I think Instagram is very noisy. I think short form is a very noisy space, and there's more and more people waking up to the fact that they will cruise on it for a long period of time and walk away with nothing. If
Hmm.
I said, "Hey, what's the best video you saw yesterday?" You'd be like, "I have
Yeah.
no idea." Like, and I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
300.
I'm
It's like
guilty myself. I'm guilty myself. It happens.
we all are. So I
Yeah.
think there's got to be a lot more strict relationship with it, and we have to consume
Yeah.
our content in a much more meaningful way.
Yeah.
I'm still wrestling with what that exactly looks like,
Yeah.
and there's still a reality to I need to contribute to the system, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I,
The
yeah,
I was gonna say the one thing also that I would add on that, Pat, is that there is a system and we always have to play with it, right? There's just algorithms and rules for being seen and all that. But in previous life, I've worked at marketing agencies and creative agencies. I've done consulting for social media and brand for a number of clients. And when I get asked, how can I be an influencer? Which is the stupidest question that I get all the time. How can I become an influencer? How can I be viral? Part of actually my number one answer to that is that you have to love the content first.
sure,
And I think that the great thing for you and myself being content creators is that we love the topic. We love
sure,
the idea. And when you love that, then you could passionately create content because you love talking about it and you love writing about it or whatever it is. And so I think that sometimes when you're some content creators or people want to be influencers or something that's totally fake or they're just looking for engagement, then it's like, how many likes did this get? And I always ask people, I would say, it, you should want to create this content even if nobody likes it. Like you should
sure.
still be happy with it. You feel that way too, where you put something out there, and of course, it would suck if it falls flat. But you like talking about it, and I like
Yeah,
talking about the stuff that I do with Rise and Dad podcast. And I think that's just a big part. And when I started Rise and Dad podcast, I was like, if it becomes nothing, then it's okay because I love talking about it anyways. And I told you
yeah,
in the front and upfront, I'm like, I just talk about my daughter when I'm at parties or I'm with friends. I'm just doing it to a larger audience now.
sure,
But
sure,
yeah, you
yeah.
gotta love the content. Gotta love the content. Yeah.
But if someone's coming into the game being like, I want to create content, I think the bigger question is like, why?
That's a great question, Pat. And just for the sake of
Sure,
learning about myself, I'm going to answer this question. I create content because I love connecting with dads who have a similar approach to fatherhood as I, or an idea that I could learn about. And I'll give you an example of that. When I'm in a social setting, usually kids come up and then you talk to another dad, like, oh, we're going through this. And I think that there were moments where I would speak to a dad and I'm like, oh, you get it. We're on the same wavelength of being present, having unconditional love, being intentional with what we do. And when
hmm,
I have that connection, it feels so good. You're there and you're pushing to be better. And when I make those connections, it feels good. It feels
yeah,
good. And so when I bring on dads that I meet and have those similar vibes, we get these learnings. I mean, you've dropped so many. And then from the content standpoint, it's then we cut those up into short little bursts of learning moments. And then we're
Totally.
sharing that out so that we're like finding more of these similar like-minded dads and sharing that story. I've had
Totally.
a lot of people come and say, "Oh, that clip about blah blah blah. I tried it and it was awesome. Thanks for sharing that." And like
Yeah.
that to me is why I do this
Yeah.
because I love the content and I believe that I'm helping others find their own niche and what that means for them.
Yeah. That's essentially coaching. That's what coaching is.
Hey,
Coaching,
I'm on my way.
you are. All you're doing is you're providing information for people to take action for themselves. And a coach basically says, hey, do this. And then you do it. So you're essentially doing it in a free form sort of way. You're going like, okay, I'm going to gather this information and I'm going to have these tidbits. And then I'm going to package it in a way that you can see it. Then you can go try something and live a better life. And I think that's like,
Totally.
I think it's super meaningful. I think it's why I do it too. It's like,
Yeah.
for me, I know I'm successful. I know I'm like, not on a financial sense, but I'm successful
Yeah.
financially too, but it's more like, I know who my kids are. Like, I know who my wife is. I know what my relationship is. I know who I am. And so, like, when I put stuff out, I know this works for me. It might not work for you, but I know it works for me.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that there's many different ways of going about it. And I'm open to dialogue. I'm open to back and forths. But as you probably know, if you've ever had anything go viral, man, the opinions otherwise are fascinating. It's
Yeah.
you see where people are coming from, and it's ooh, interesting.
Yeah,
but
that was actually my next question I was going to ask you was
Go-
about social
Yeah.
hater because different opinions come out. And I'm not saying that they're bad or
No, they're bad.
just
There's
different.
a lot of really bad ones.
Okay, tell me about a story about someone who's had a different perspective on what you're preaching.
Some of my posts will hit and get like 3-4 million views, and when that many people are seeing it, there's inevitably people coming in
Of course.
just attacking you. And what's fascinating is that some of them will attack me, and that's hilarious to me because, dude, this is a minute clip. You have no idea who I am. I am probably well suited to social media because I so do not care what someone I don't know thinks. It's out loud laughable as I read it. And the first one that ever went viral for me was I did a no yelling challenge with myself. Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I remember that one.
I'm gonna spend
Are you a
month
yeller?
not yelling.
Pat?
I'm not a yeller. Not by
anymore.
design. Well, not anymore. I wasn't a constant yeller. I was more just like when something acutely happened, my first reaction, and my kids are great kids, so it'd be like a cup spills that I let them bring to bed. I'm like, oh, what the heck? Like it would go there, and it was more of reactionary. And
Sure.
I realized there was no gap between when something would happen and what I would choose to do. So there was just this lack of regulation to the point where I didn't have a conscious choice of being like, I'm going to do this. But I didn't go about just yelling at my kids. But when I did yell, it was really scary to them. And so I did this challenge with myself and I made a video, and the video went quite viral. And the comments I got on that were so extreme. Some guys were coming in and being like, your kids are going to work for my kids. They're going to be such weak little bitches.
Oh my God.
The other guys were being like, if you don't yell at your kids, they're going to grow up trans. But then on the
Wow.
other side, I had people coming in being like, if you've yelled at your kids one time, you've completely traumatized them. You're a bad father. You're a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Clearly, you don't give a shit about anyone.
I
that they
don't.
think.
Well, no, but it was fascinating to see. And I would read them out to my wife and she would laugh because these people have no idea who I am. I initially just ignored stuff, but I think what's more fascinating is to engage, but ask genuine questions.
Yeah.
Take the trans one and be like, hey.
The haters don't do that well. You can't ask them real
do well.
questions.
They don't do well at all. And you go, so tell me what the link between not yelling at them and them changing their gender. What? And they would try to stumble through an answer and you'd be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And having little bits of engagement, that kept it entertaining for me. Like I would happily go on a podcast with any of these people and have not a fight, but like tell me your position. I'd love to know the side. Here's what's fascinating is I have had hundreds of really negative comments, thousands of really positive comments. I have had thousands of really positive DMs. I have had zero zero negative DMs. To me, it means the hate is performative. It goes to show that the good is real. People are
Yeah.
wanting to go, but the hate is superficial. It's all surface level.
My biggest social media haters were when I had this clip where I was talking about how much I loved my daughter. It was like cut where I was just like, I am so in love with this little girl. And it was just like, oh my God, check this guy's computer search history. I'm like, what? Like,
What are you?
yeah. Yeah, because I said I was in love with my young daughter. They're just, oh my gosh, that's so weird. Why did he say that? I'm like, oh, dude, come on. Or they're throwing hate at something about women, and then I go to their page and I'm like, you have daughters. What are you doing? All right, Pat, we're moving on. A couple quick hitters from Pat, the Father Skill. Tell us the biggest challenge with fatherhood.
I think the biggest initial challenge with fatherhood is letting go of control. There's this idea that you have a sense of who you are and how you navigate the world and what's important. And when you have a child, it throws that off so aggressively that you do need to surrender a bit of your identity. And you don't need to lose yourself in being a father per se, but you do need to recognize that it's not about you anymore. And that's harder or easier depending on the man that you are. I think for some men, they lose themselves and become like, now I'm dad. And they sacrifice, and that's tough. But then other guys try to fight it, and they like, I'm still going to have my boys' time. I'm going to play golf twice a week and the blah, blah. And it's like, nah, dude, like, it's not about you anymore. It's about your family and your kid. And you have to learn how to give up some of the old identity. And I think that it's a control thing that once you learn to let go, it becomes so much more joyous. But that's very difficult depending on the direction you're coming from.
Nice. Before we go to the next question, the line that you said about hanging with your boys spoke to me because we need our time with our friends. But I've gotten to a place, Pat, where I'd rather just hang out with my family. I'd rather hang out with my wife and my daughter. I love it so much that I hope that other dads get to a point where they prefer that too, right? They're not hoping for their like escape. Thank God I'm away and I'm out of the house. Like, of course, we need our time to do our own thing. For me, I don't see it as, God, I really need to get it. It's just like, I love being here with my wife and my daughter. I just want it to be us. And I love that. And so I hope that my friends and other dads can get to that point where they love it so much that it's not, I got to go hang out with my friends.
Totally. I agree with you almost 100%. I think the one thing that's a caveat there is like when you start to struggle though, say life happens and shit hits the fan, there's a thing that male counterparts will do to keep you in check and hold you accountable that your wife shouldn't be responsible for.
Are you talking about like a nut tap or my friends?
Yeah, a metaphorical or a literal nut tap. There's a tendency.
I hope my wife will never nut tap me. Please don't.
Well, exactly.
Stephanie,
but she
if you're watching it, don't give me the nut tap.
She shouldn't be the one to nut tap you. But I think the reality is, if she's your only place to vent, then you become less attractive as a man. And I think that you should be able to be honest and open with her 100%. And I think that you should be able to express feelings and do that kind of stuff. But I think that you also need to have those outlets of, okay, where's my crew that I need to commiserate with for just a little bit. And because I think people can lose themselves in their family, same sort of deal where it's like, I just love them so much, I don't need you guys. No, you do. If you still want your wife to sleep with you. Like there's, so I think that there is a balance. I think some people naturally hover towards I'm going to just be with my family. And I'm like you, I could just be with my family forever. I love it. But I think that there's a danger in that when shit hits the fan, we need to have our men that we can go to and be like, hey, I need to dump this on you and I need you to bounce it back to me. And if we do that with our wives, we become a little less attractive.
There you go. Great ad, Pat. Another one, best thing about being a dad?
I think it depends on who you are. But for me, it's you get to relive the little things. You start to recognize like all the things that you've ever enjoyed in your life, like learning to ski for the first time or experiencing a hot chocolate for the first time or finding bugs interesting. If you're present as a father, you can start to find just unfiltered joy in everyday life as you watch your kids experience stuff, as you watch your kids do little things without you being involved at all. I'm not saying sit and play with them. I'm literally saying you watch them play with each other and you watch how one of them for the first time looks at two toys and goes, "You want this one?" And you just break because it's just you watched a brain develop a sense of togetherness. That happens every day, all day, if you pay attention. If you're not present and you're scrolling on your phone and you're numbing yourself, then you won't see it. But like the best part of fatherhood are the little things, like just being able to be present. The worst thing you can do is look back at fatherhood and be like, oh my God, I didn't pay attention. And I think that we will all have this epiphany at some point, but the sooner you have it, the better. And yeah, I think the best part about fatherhood is being able to see these little things happen that are super meaningless, but the most gratifying thing in the world.
Awesome. Pat, one piece of advice for dads?
One piece of advice, just one. Okay.
Just one.
To top off the other stuff we were talking about, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to take care of yourself on a basic level. You need to be physically healthy. So you need to be doing movement. You need to be eating with intention. You need to be sleeping with whatever degree of control you have at the time of life that you're currently in. And then you need to have some sort of an outlet. But there are times that these four things are going to get completely thrown out of whack. That's okay. But you do need to figure out ways to get back to it because you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're just constantly sacrificing, you're going to be worse for your family. So there needs to be a filling of that cup to some degree on a physiological health level and an emotional level.
That's great, man. Take care of yourself first. Put on your oxygen mask first, then save the world. Hey, Pat, some this or that, quick hitters. Just tell me which ones you prefer. You prefer to handle the morning routine or the bedtime routine?
The morning routine.
Coaching fathers or coaching kids?
Fathers. I do not like coaching kids. I think it's not really coaching.
Say more.
It's like, so coaching kids is all about making it a game. And it's like when you actually are coaching kids through a sport, it's about connecting and coaching them on that level. I think coaching adults, there's a different playing field. You have to be really passionate about coaching kids. And if you are, power to you. But it's far more about navigating chaos. But I like adults because I can connect with them and play with them a little bit differently.
Love it. Would you rather handle a poopy blowout in public or a meltdown in public?
Both of those are easy.
Piece of cake for the father's guilt.
Dude, I'm four kids deep, homie. It's like you learn none of these things matter.
All right. One-on-one date. So that'd be like with one of your kids or the whole family.
Whole family. Yeah, whole family.
Family movie night or family activity day?
I love both of those, but I think family activity day is significantly more impactful to their well-being.
Awesome. Hey, Pat, that takes us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being here, for representing the Fathers Guild. I think we really hit on some really deep conversation, and hopefully our guests will be able to learn from it and take it back to their lives. Once again, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I've learned so much. I'm taking homework. I wrote stuff down. But yeah, thank you.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. It was genuinely fun conversation. And if you ever need me, I'm always here.
Hey, appreciate it. All right. For Pat and for Kevin on the Rise and Dad podcast, thank you so much. And we'll see you later. What's up, dads? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rise and Dad podcast. We hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, and do all of the great things that help us continue to make great content for you.